Content warning. This episode talks about sensitive topics, including eating disorders and sex. So listener discretion is advised because content may not be suitable for young audiences. Hey everybody, Jen Hatmaker here, host of the For the Love podcast. Welcome to the show. So right now we are in a series called For the Love of You. And I want to qualify that like I constantly do in this series, which is by saying, I don't mean that in a silly way, like, and for the love of you. We just really thought as a team about developing a series where we really explored the different ways that you as a person matter in the world, and where are our hangups and where are our roadblocks, and what do we need to be mentally healthy and physically healthy and spiritually healthy and emotionally healthy. And so we have compiled this team of like incredible experts, the best in the biz, to walk us through these facets of ourselves that collectively tend to become so broken and kind of so corrupted. And we're just wondering if we can begin to build a roadmap home. And so that's what this series is about. Now, having said that, if you're in my world, you know that for the past few years, I have taken a pretty serious deep dive into what it actually means to exist within my own body and honor her desires and her needs. Like, and yes, her, Hillary taught me to say that, who I'm about to introduce, because she needs love. She needs care and kindness and nourishment and all the things that I routinely withheld for many, many, many years. And for what? Like, how did treating my body irresponsibly help me? What did it gain me? Nothing. How did treating my body like my own personal enemy, right? Like my body is the single greatest detriment to a beautiful life. Did that deliver it all? It didn't. And so I can tell you this, having logged a good 5 years here, there is something so unbelievably magical about loving and existing in our bodies, while treating them with incredible care and respect. Now, I will say up front, this has not been an easy journey for me. For me, this meant unlearning a ton of toxic narratives that I've been ingesting since I was a kid. Right? Same for you. We all got kind of the same story. So for me, this was a road filled with blocks and bumps and bruises and forward progress and then backward progress. And I needed help to clear the way. And so I don't know how many times I have said this publicly. I can't even count how many times I have referenced her. I have highlighted her work. I have taken her exact words and put them inside my own books, my own podcasts, my own sort of community language with you, because Dr. Hillary McBride, who we have on the show today, was probably my most shining star. And for me, what was a new conversation, definitely a new way to learn and live. She has inspired me in every way and literally changed the way I think. And so I can't wait to share this conversation with you. It's literally, this is one of those episodes, and I always know it right when I finish. I actually know it right in the middle of it, but I knew right when this episode just wrapped a second ago that every single word like has value today. There's not a wasted word, not one, not a wasted sentence. Because if you're new to Hillary, you'll see she's like wonderfully like gentle. So where I can be kind of like a bull in a china shop, Hillary is like, I just kind of want to like lean my head on Hillary's shoulder and just take a nap. She's so good at what she does, and her like way of being in the world is so lovely. So let me tell you a little bit more about her, just in case you're new, because she has been on the show today. She's a returning guest. Dr. McBride, by the way, she got her fancy doctorate in the intervening time from the first episode that I had her on to this one. So now she's fancy. And as you know, I've said this a million times on the show when we've had on so many like PhD people on the show. And the truth is that if I ever had the word doctor in front of my name that I earned, I would be insufferable. It would, there'd be a zero chance I wouldn't require it as my moniker. Like, it's Dr. Hatmaker. I'm like super obsessed. I'm over the top obsessed with education. Anyway, she's a doctor now, you guys, and she's a registered psychologist. She's based in British Columbia, up in Canada, and her work has been recognized by the American Psychological Association and the Canadian Psychological Association. She completed her PhD in counseling psychology from the University of British Columbia. And she recently won the Young Investigators Award for her research contributions so early in her academic career. Like, she's fancy, she's special. Her work in private practice and teaching and research includes absolute expertise in what I would even consider like pioneering research at the intersections of spirituality and mental health, trauma, body image, eating disorders, embodiment, and feminist psychology. Like, you can see why I love her. That's all my stuff. That's everything. That's everything I love. So her first book, Mothers, Daughters, and Body Image, Learning to Love Ourselves as We Are, was published in 2017. And there is no way that I quoted a single ounce less than 5,000 words of that in Fierce, in my last book. I had, if those of you who read Fierce, I have this whole chapter on bodies, and its center point is Hillary's work. So I told her at the end of the show today, I'm like, I'll never, ever stop referencing you. And the degree to which I do that is just like a hair under plagiarism. But I always credit her. So everybody calm down. Okay. So Hillary's a senior editor of the textbook called Embodiment and Eating Disorders, Theory, Research, Prevention, and Treatment, which was published in 2018. And so her next book is called The Wisdom of Your Body, Finding Healing, Wholeness, and Connection Through Embodied Living. It comes out in October, and I'm actually going to have her on an IG live. So y'all be watching for that. We will absolutely unpack what she is offering us in that book. And I told her, and I've said this many times, the greatest compliment that I can give Hillary's work is that the very second I finish reading it, I want to put it in the hands of my daughters. Hillary is the host of Other People's Problems, which is a podcast about therapy and mental health. And per her self-reporting, the great loves of her life are her husband, her brand new baby daughter, the ocean, and chai tea. So it's not a bad list. And she's the love of my life. So there's that. So I am so happy, if you're new to her, that you're going to get introduced to Hillary's work today. And this conversation we talk about sex, we talk about hunger, we talk about what do we do when we are disconnected from our bodies and we've believed that lie, and how do we get started? It's all in here. Okay. So you're not going to want to miss 1 second of it. Hit play. And then you're going to want to share this with every woman that you love, your sisters, your best friends, definitely your daughters. This is one for the record books, guys. So I'm so glad to bring you my conversation with the incredible, the stunning Dr. Hillary McBride. I mean, we were just talking before we hit record, but I am so happy to have you back on the show, Hillary. And what's so fun is, like I just told you, the first time we ever talked, you didn't have a doctor in front of your name and you didn't have a baby girl. So your life's just moving down the tracks.
Right. Yeah. A lot has happened in the last couple of years. It's true.
A lot has happened in the first couple of years. And like I also just told you, in your genre, kind of in your discipline and where you spend the majority of your time in your research and influence, nobody has affected me more than you. Nobody. You are the lead person who put new language into my hands, language I'd never heard, much less internalized. You have changed my personal practices on how I both think about my body, speak to her, call her names in a good way.
Right. The best kind of names.
A lot of other incredible leaders have piled on to the foundation that you have built into my life. And thus, you know how this works. I end up building into my community because I don't invent everything good. I just find you. I'm like, guys, here's Hillary. Here's Hillary. Listen to what she says. She knows.
Oh, that's so moving to me to know that's impacted you in that way. I mean, thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome. I mean, every word of it. So a lot of my community, it's been a minute since you and I have been on the show together, but a lot of my community will remember you from our first interview. And then of course, you also with me did a wonderful bonus episode at the beginning of the pandemic, which was also a million years ago. Has it been a million years?
Time feels so strange.
I don't even know. I don't even know the year. But so for the new listeners I have onboarded since then who are new to you, could you just tell us a little bit about kind of who you are? Obviously, you can touch down on what's new with you since our last conversation, and spare no details, but just kind of let everybody know about you, Hillary.
Sure. Depending on the season of life that I'm in, I like to answer that question differently. So sometimes I orient myself more towards my working role and I'll say, I'm a psychologist. And so I work with people and I have the privilege and immense honor of being with people in moments of pain or transformation or healing. And right now it feels like the best way to introduce myself is as a new mom. It feels like my entire identity has shifted. Totally. And I'm trying to retain threads of what I knew myself to be before. And that is such a joy, particularly in conversations like this. Oh yeah, there is this whole other part of my life and existence, but I am like really in the thick of it with sleep schedule and feeding and diapers and trying to figure out how to be a mom and how to get poop stains out of baby clothes. That's
a new skill set for you, isn't it?
It's true. Yes. Yeah, I know so much about that.
I know you do.
Yeah. So yeah, a mom as well feels like a really important thing that's happening in me, shifting in me. And I imagine it will translate so well back to how I am a therapist, how I am with people, because there's something that feels like it's rooted deeper in me about tenderness and love and patience and all of the things that grow in us when we learn to be with such a vulnerable little being and the magic and mystery of that. And then of course I teach at a university and I research and I'm a curious person. I love drinking tea. Those are all parts of my
it all counts.
Well, it all counts. Yeah. So those are some big things. And then I think the other significant thing is that I have a book coming out, a book I've been working on for a very, very, very long time called The Wisdom of Your Body. And so I feel like I'm in the emergence of so many new things in my life. I'm right in the thick of it. Babies, books.
I have that book. I do my best to worm my way into a relationship with people that I want to be in relationship with, you being one of them, which means I get advanced copies of things I want to read. Well done. We're going to talk about that because it's profound. I mean, it's really profound and it's really important. And I look forward, just on a side note, something you just said, I really look forward to seeing how being a mom affects your work. And especially a mom of a daughter. That particular intersection has always meant something to you, obviously. Yeah. You've explored that already. And so I just think this is going to provide an experience for you that can't be manufactured any other way except to learn to live it. And we're all going to benefit from it, from your little nugget that you brought into this world. Little love.
Changing me. She's changing me. It really, like what I'm thinking about when you're saying this is it's like having studied the moon and now I get to go.
That's it.
There's something about the intellectual knowledge dropping into my fingertips when I hold her in the night, or the way that I see my own body as having made her. I mean, there's just ripples and ripples and ripples.
Oh, totally.
Into my own life. And like you, when something shifts in me, I want to give it away.
That's
I
right.
want to understand it and distribute it in my community. It's like the intellectual or therapy version of like a micro loan for women.
Yes.
Like give
That's
the women
a great
the
metaphor.
Everybody in the community benefits.
You do that so well. I want to start talking with you about the concept of embodiment. I learned this from you first. I learned what it meant. I learned why it matters. You handed me some language around this that took me a while to assimilate because we're not raised like this. This matters and it's kind of foundational both to your work and even as your community, our front door to your work. And so you have called the mind-body connection a divide, and I couldn't agree more. Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about for what even is a mind-body connection? What do you mean by that? Mm-hmm. And then how, it's not even a question of it's how has patriarchal culture harmed, like really even traumatized our understanding of our bodies?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what's kind of interesting about this idea of mind-body connection is we have these two words that imply that they're distinct sources, distinct processes from each other. The mind and the body are separate. Yeah. And the kind of the frontiers of neuroanatomy and the way we understand our bodies is now showing us that these are so intimately connected. They work together. There are no splits between what's happening in our body and what's happening in our mind. And everything that's happening in our body is shaping the way that we think. The way that we think is shaping what's happening in the textures of our muscles and our fibers and our nerve endings and our digestion. I mean, we understand now that our gut is like a second brain. We know what happens in our kind of emotions impacts what's happening in our digestion. Our posture changes our mood. There is no such thing as the mind-body divide, except for how we've constructed it in our language. So when we start to understand that everything is connected, that moves us back into more creativity, more wholeness, more agency, and a better way of navigating what it means to be human and understanding particularly where we get stuck in terms of illness, where we get stuck in terms of the other kinds of separations we see in our world around us, between us and them, between past and present. I mean, really the body is the center of where life happens, where identity happens. And when we change how we understand that, the ripple of that moves into every sphere of our existence.
As a practical example of that, maybe one of the most powerful things that I have learned from you was your suggestion that in order to bridge that divide, because really it's, for most grown women in our generation, it's new territory.
Right.
Because we have thought of ourselves as so separately. And so it was your suggestion to begin to call our bodies a she or a her, and humanizing this idea that my body is me. Like that is me. It's not just my unfortunate container carrying around my brain. Right. It is me and worthy of like being cherished and spoken gently to and kind. And so when I first learned that from you and tried to start putting that into practice, calling my body a she or a her and speaking to her lovingly and with gratitude. I mean, I remember like it was yesterday, the story that you told at the time. I don't even know if you remember this, but I can't remember what the parameters of it were, but you were at the doctor. You were in the doctor's office and something was scary. I don't remember, but it was just before all of it was sort of going to flesh out and that the nurse overheard you,
right?
Like putting your hands like over your own heart and speaking like beautifully to your body about how far she had brought you and how proud you were of her. And that is a mind-blowing idea for me. Wow. To be that generous to our own selves. And so, but what I've noticed practicing that is that does ultimately change us.
Yeah.
It's changed me.
Yeah.
It found its way from just like a verbal practice that I was just trying on for size into something that I believe now. I mean, yes. I'm forever wrapping my arms around myself and being like, wow, oh, you sweet thing. Like,
yes, that's right. Yeah. Holding yourself the way that you hold anybody else that you love.
That's
to
right.
come back to your question about patriarchy, one of the things that patriarchy has done is it's convinced us we are not our bodies, that our bodies are a thing.
That's right.
A thing, and a thing that we have to be at war with, a thing we need to control, subdue. Because, and here's this tension, and when I say it, everyone's going to see it, in patriarchy, in kind of this white supremacist paradigm that we live in the West, there are two options for us. Your body is bad.
Yeah.
And your body is the only thing that matters about you, and it's your currency for belonging. So hate it, but also treat it like an object that needs to be preserved and valued based on our societal standards. So diet, restrict your body.
Yeah.
Disconnect from what your body needs, because your needs will put you at odds with what your culture wants for you.
Right.
So we learned to disconnect from our bodies and see our bodies as just appearance, and an appearance kind of currency to value.
That's right.
And we miss everything else that our body is for us, including the place where our existence happens, the place of our beingness that is always for us. Our bodies are not just a thing that gets in the way of us being loved. Our bodies are keeping us alive.
Yeah.
They are the place where pleasure happens, where joy, connection, where experience of fulfillment, where desire happens. I mean, the body is always working for our good.
Yeah, that's right. And what a wonderful mindset. I always say now that my body is team me and only team me. Its only agenda is to protect me, to keep me safe, to warn me, only with my highest good at all times. That's it. That's the only North Star. So pressing into this a little bit, you gave a talk where you mentioned the vagus nerve. Am I saying that right? Vagus?
You are,
And you said, in our culture, and this is kind of what we're talking about, but I want you to take it one layer deeper. In our culture that is bent on us using bodies to carry our brain around, sometimes we can miss the hidden wisdom written in our DNA. And it's that I want to hear you talk about. What is the wisdom that we can train ourselves to tune into and also trust? Because that's a big, I think that's a real breach for a lot of women, particularly.
Absolutely. Well, I think you just started talking about it there, that our body is trying to keep us safe. So a really good example of this is when we think about trauma. So trauma, right, is something that overwhelms our nervous system, and we feel confused, we feel overwhelmed, we feel powerless. The way that memory storage happens typically changes in trauma, and all of a sudden we can have these reactions that don't really make sense for their current context, right? A good example of that for me is I have lots of trauma in cars. I've had lots of really close calls in cars, near-death experiences in cars. And so sometimes I'm sitting in my parking lot in my car and my heart is pounding out of my chest. But I'm sitting still. I'm not even
you're
driving,
safe.
Right. I'm safe. Exactly. So my body is telling me this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Because it's remembering, hey, this is the place where all of this pain has happened. So I can look at my body and say, why is it doing this? This doesn't make sense. It's, I'm getting all sweaty, and you're not doing the thing I want you to do. You're making it hard to drive, body. Yeah. Or I can look at my body and say, oh, you're remembering all of the times, and it has been so scary to be in this particular seat. No wonder you're getting my heart racing. You're trying to tell me, pay attention. So we have a body that is wired to keep us safe, to keep us alive. And we misconstrue some of the messages that our bodies give us or send to other people as being inconvenient, problematic, when really what they're doing is they're telling the story of what we've been through. And they're actually pointing us in the direction of what we need to do to heal. They're saying there is still some stuff here that you think is happening that actually was over a long time ago. And it's time for you to heal this part. And I'm telling you, it's time to do some healing by giving you all of this information. And then there's another piece of it, which our body, through emotion, through how our bodies respond to different sensory cues around us and people around us, it's telling us not just how to stay safe, but how to be whole, how to connect to other people, how to love other people well. But if we are disconnected from our bodies, if we have been told your feelings are a liability, they lead you astray. If we've been told that your body is a problem that is going to harm somebody else because you're beautiful, you're desirable. I mean, so many of us who grew up in different faith contexts were told your body is going to lead other people into sin. And so we learn to disconnect from our bodies. And as a result, when our body gives us such good information about who we are and how to feel pain with other people, we don't know what to do with that. So we shove it down. And feelings are a really important thing to talk about here, because most of us think about feelings as an intellectual process, the name we give for the story we're telling. Yeah. But actually, emotion is a physiological process.
Absolutely.
That is wired to move us into action, and in particular, to move us into action to care for people around us and to care for ourselves.
Yeah.
So if we've been told we cannot trust our feelings, then when we see the suffering of other people, we are also disconnected from empathy. We are also disconnected from the impulses in us that tell us, do something to care for your neighbor. So feelings in our body are part of how we heal our social fabric. And, right, we need to be able to nuance them and respond to them so that we're not necessarily just jumping into our impulses all the time. But we cannot care for others and do justice work in a sustainable way if we don't have access to our own feeling.
That's really powerful. This isn't neutral work. It's not without consequence. This isn't just something that those of us who are a little bit more self-actualized get to live inside that freedom, and the rest of us will just power through.
Right.
Like, this affects our relationships. This affects our physical health, literally, especially if we decide to ignore it at our own peril. You know, Hillary, this last year has been hard for me, and I've experienced a lot of trauma and a lot of loss with the collapse of my marriage. After 26 years, that's muscle memory in every fiber of my body. That's the only thing I know. That was my entire adult experience. And so, I have my own worst enemy here, because I have such strong Enneagram 3 tendencies that I can access the capacity to simply power through. I can do it. I just can do it. It's part of my skill set, that I can convince myself that I'm shutting a drawer so I can open these others and get shit done. Right. Or just even from a less ambitious perspective, just keep my family together. Like, I will be this anchor for my kids right now. And I'm just going to set this stuff aside and I'll get to it. But right now, somebody needs to be the adult in the room. And so this last year, I mean, after really 10 months of that, of handling it. I mean, handling everything. I started, and it is not a natural way for me to live in the world in an anxious place. That's just, I have my own problems. I have other problems, but generally kind of anxiety and that family has not ever been a part of my experience. And I started having panic attacks, and it felt like out of nowhere. It just felt like, what? I'm just sitting here. Like, I'm not in danger in any way, shape, or form. And my body was just finally like, that's enough. Yeah. It's enough. You did what you had to do. Like, we've done it. We held it together. We saw the family through. We got us to the other side of this trauma, and it is enough. Like, red flags, alarms, alarm bells, and pay attention. So I think maybe even 5 years ago, I would have responded like you mentioned again. I would have mentioned a minute ago, I would have said, my body's betraying me.
Yes.
It's finally throwing in the towel after right when I need it. right? Like my body is going to just collapse. But now, because I've learned so much and you've taught me so much and your colleagues have taught me so much, I knew enough to be so like thankful and tender that my body was like, we will stop. We will stop. We will deal. You need to heal. That something needs to be seen and named and addressed. And what a gift.
Yes.
No one else is going to do that for me. Not one person in the whole world, except for my body. Right. That's it. Because everybody else will just keep taking whatever we're going to give.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm so struck by your ability to integrate all the things that you've been learning about and thinking about. That panic is one of the most awful things that we can feel, because most people who experience it often feel like they're dying.
It feels like a heart attack.
Yeah. It is not a fun thing to stay with and be thankful for. So
no, it isn't.
For that.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's really hard work. Well done. But it makes me think of something I talk about in the book, which is not a new concept that I'm coming up with, but something I've learned from other colleagues in this area. The idea of the second arrow. And the second arrow is the thing that we do to ourselves after something painful already happens in life. So life shoots the first arrow. There are awful things that happen to us. And I don't think that happens because we've done anything wrong or we need to be
That's just life.
Lesson. Life is just painful sometimes.
That's right.
But how do we respond to that? What are the messages that we tell ourselves about that? So, okay, so you have all of this stuff happening in the background of your life, and then the panic that's saying, pay attention, feel the feelings, be with yourself, tune in to what this is really like for you. Yes. And we have choices about what we do with that information. We shame ourselves and we say, body, right? Yeah. We scapegoat our body as the proof that our body, these messages are the proof that our body's actually a problem. Or we say, thank you for telling me this. Of course you're giving me that information. I went through so much after that many years in a marriage. No wonder I have this much grief and this much feeling and this much sadness and this much loss. Of course you're telling me about that. Thank you. I need to feel this. So we have choices about how we respond to that information. But like you're saying, culturally, we're not given that story we're not supported to have a dialogue with ourselves that is compassionate, and our bodies are constantly seen as the problem.
That's right.
The root for so much of our distress. Like our bodies, we have been told by other people, and then we do it to ourselves.
That's right.
We say that our physiological responses or what's happening to us is proof that our bodies are bad and can't be trusted, when really our bodies are just saying, please let me care for you. Please trust me. That's so important. We can learn to listen.
So good. And I appreciate that. If you got the first part of this episode, when I introduced Hillary, you know she's a therapist. And so I want to say this to you. The journey back to respecting our bodies, to trusting ourselves and finding that connection again, I know that it can feel shaky and uncertain even, if not downright traumatic. There are a lot of things that need to be unraveled and worked through. And so you have to know that therapy is such a good companion for this specific work. And BetterHelp is an excellent resource for professional counseling because it is such a safe access point. It's all online, so they meet you where you are, literally. BetterHelp's licensed counselors have a broad range of expertise categories, including self-esteem and body image and eating disorders, mental health. It's all in there. And as you probably know, I do all my therapy online, which just works for me. And I know it works a lot for a lot of you in my community too. Because it's online, BetterHelp is convenient, it's affordable, and it's accessible. So just open up that laptop or hop on the phone and you are there. You can start communicating with a BetterHelp therapist in under 24 hours. So with Hillary's words in our hearts, let's do the sometimes challenging soul work of repairing and restoring our relationships with our bodies and ultimately with ourselves. This is foundational and deserves to be centered. So as a listener, you'll get 10% off your whole first month of BetterHelp by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/forthelove. So join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health at BetterHelp, HELP.com/forthelove. I know for me, and I know that you see this too, you have access to this paradigm as well, which was that very specifically for women, coming up through a faith paradigm, like in a faith space, not subtly, but on the nose, overtly, I was taught in no ambiguous terms that my body was not to be trusted.
Right.
And backed up with scripture, that if I had a thought, it was a bad one. If I had a desire, it should be squashed. Hunger in general was attach it to whatever you want. Certainly sexual hunger, but really any hunger, just an appetite, was frowned upon. And if anything, I think what was insidious for me that took me the longest to overcome is this sense that it was suspicious. Right? That could not be trusted. If your body is telling it to you, then your spiritual practice here, your sense of obedience is going to be to deny it. And so that has had a catastrophic effect on the other messages that our bodies send us that are important. And our appetites are important too. But if we decide that we are going to squash the pleasure stuff, we also end up not being able to trust the alarm bells. And so this is a deal. This is a deal. If somebody is listening right now, and maybe they came up in a faith space, or maybe they just got that story, because a lot of us did, right? This is just an unfortunate deal. And they would like to begin the work of even just having permission to trust their own bodies and what their bodies are constantly trying to say to them. How would you instruct us there? How would you instruct this in sort of the beginning space?
Oh, I love this question. There's something you said that I want to come back to, which is about the relationship, how we relate to our bodies. We can borrow a paradigm of relationship that we use in other spheres of our life. And most of us, if we've had any long-term friendships or marriage or kind of collegial relationships, we know that if there is a trust that has been broken, that a repair needs to be made. So when we think about relating to our body, not as a thing, but as a being, our body is the place where we exist. There is aliveness, there is a personhood to our body, that when we think of our body in that way, we can use relationship analogies and skills to mend that disconnect that we felt with ourselves. So the analogy that I love to use is if you had a relationship with a friend, or maybe not a friend, a person in your life, in your community, who you've been told was dangerous, was bad, could not be trusted, and was out to get you, and actually would take away your worth and your value because of just how they are. Yeah. If you were given the message one day that everything you learned about them was wrong, would that immediately create intimacy and trust with that person? No.
Good example.
Right? There would need to be so much repair of, I'm so sorry I believed that about you. What was really going on for you? And tell me, and can we make new memories and associations with each other? So I love to start this integration process with our bodies with an I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Wow, I believed everything that was ever told to me about you, including the things that were not true. No wonder you're screaming, trying to get my attention, because I don't listen to the whispers. I don't listen to the subtleties of your communication. And so you have to throttle me with panic attacks, or you have to throttle me with chronic pain or illness or whatever it is to get my attention. I am so sorry. And what was really true all along? And can we make new memories? Can we make a new relationship? And so I like to think about starting with that, because that's how I heal every other relationship in my life when there's a fracture.
That's right.
Right? We know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so can we do that here? And then I think about the slow getting to know you process. So paying attention to little things, keeping data about, oh, that's what it's like when I'm hungry. Oh, that's how I know I'm tired. And we build the trust. We reconcile by noticing those messages and responding to them. So when I'm tired, actually going to bed, or telling my body, oh, yes, thank you for telling me I'm tired. I have some responsibilities that I have to deal with. Like, I'm a new mom. Okay, I'm going to be tired pretty much 24/7.
That's right.
So thank you for telling me I need more sleep. That's good information for me. And I'm going to take care of my baby right now. And as soon as that need is taken care of, I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to rest. Or thank you for giving me a hunger cue. I'm going to feed myself.
Yeah.
And when we start to pay attention to that information, we build trust with ourselves. So our body doesn't have to scream so loud. We can hear like, I don't feel good walking down that street, or
that's good.
Doesn't feel safe being with that person. I think they remind you of someone who's hurt you before, or something like that. And we have more nuance in the communication with our bodies. Now, what I'll say when I say all of this is that sometimes what happens is people are like, I don't know how to tell the difference between when I'm hungry, because I'm actually hungry, and just when I'm eating because I feel sad.
Right.
So like my body, I get kind of confused. And I'm tired, but I don't know if I'm tired because I didn't get enough sleep last night, or because I'm in a job that's unsatisfying, or the nuance of all of those cues takes a little bit of time to figure out.
Yep.
And just like we would with other relationship, we get to know someone when we see in the inflection of their voice and the way they use their body, like what they're saying that's funny and what they're saying that's actually, truth veiled with humor, or the kind of the different ways that we can communicate with complexity. So I like to remind people that our relationships with our bodies are not defined by a singular moment in time, that we have an arc we take with our bodies from birth to death. It is the only partnership we have that lasts from the moment we are born to the moment we die. And there is time to learn, and you do not have to get it right away. So if you are learning to feed yourself because you're finally listening to hunger, and sometimes you eat even though you're not hungry physically, you're kind of hungry emotionally. Okay. That's okay.
You're
cool.
right.
Good.
Yeah.
You're learning. Great. And you'll figure it out over time. Right. And when we know that the way that our body looks or behaves isn't defined by how other people have given us kind of rubrics or metrics to evaluate or judge ourselves, but based on our quality of trust and connection and commitment to ourselves, we can relax into the journey of figuring out how over time. We do not have to get it right in a single instant.
I want to ask you a question that I haven't prepped you for. And I don't know what the answer will really be. And the question's kind of broad and nebulous. So with that intro.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yay. Let's keep going.
Let's do it.
How would you instruct? Most of my listeners are women. And what I have both experienced and also what I pick up in the community atmosphere is that we've got a real problem figuring out also how to both trust and assimilate and even consider what our body is telling us sexually, what our body tells us we want, what we need, what is good, what's supposed to be a great, fun adventure. Because just like a million other concepts, sex has been so corrupted and it has just been squeezed into just oblivion and trauma. And it's the source of so much pain for so many women, and for good reason. And so I think I would just like to hear you talk a little bit about reconciling sexual hunger and desire and possibility and permission when that has been not just a story, but for a lot of us, an experience that is steeped in suffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even suffering at its outer edge, or even just like, that's bad.
Right.
Like that's bad.
Right. There's a range of fragmentation that we have. I'm going to speak kind of in generalizations as women in Western culture, ranging from very normative sexual trauma. And I don't mean normative as in it's okay. I mean, it is so frequently occurring.
Common. Yeah.
Yes. It has hit so many people. It's hit most people that we know.
That's right.
All the way to, like you're saying, this kind of subtle shame that we carry, or maybe a nuance of that, maybe another flavor is the way that we've been sexually objectified and learned to over-identify with the kind of pleasure we offer other people, as if our sexuality is defined by another person's experience. And we learn to leave our bodies, either because our bodies are not safe and this is shame, or we leave our bodies because we're so preoccupied with how other people see and experience our bodies that we perform sexuality based on what another person wants from us. So there's so many things in that spectrum that I want to try and hit. And I think it's important to address the kind of learned helplessness that so many of us have around our sexuality, that we have been told so many times that our bodies are bad, that our sexuality will lead us and other people astray, that we learn to kind of shut a part of ourselves off. Yeah. And when we shut a part of ourselves off, it's really hard to enjoy our sexuality. It's really hard because enjoying it means that it is awake and alive inside of us. So I like to think about, again, the narrative that I mentioned earlier about apologies, going into the place in ourselves, into our stories where we learned those shut down messages and saying that we're sorry to ourselves, maybe responsibility taking if we played a role in that, but really just saying, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Acknowledging the places where the schism between ourselves and our bodies happened as it related to sexuality. And then I think taking responsibility for our healing. Like you said earlier, nobody is going to do this for me. This is my journey to take with myself. And there is an immense joy and privilege in that. But I think understanding like Esther Perel asked the question, when do I turn myself on? Instead of when does someone turn me on? When do I turn myself on? Like when do I feel a kind of awakeness and aliveness in my body that isn't even just about sexuality or sexual pleasure? What kind of food makes me go, oof, right? I kind of feel like this movement and pleasure and sensuality come back on in my body. What kind of music makes me feel like I enjoy moving? Like I feel this pleasure in movement. And then I think also experimenting with masturbation or self-pleasure, the ability to touch your own body and go, oh, that feels good. Yeah. Sometimes that offers us so much more control and agency than having somebody else touch our body when that has been a place that has been so unsafe or dangerous for us.
That's right.
So noticing, what am I going to take responsibility for? I can't expect somebody else to perfectly give me this sexual awakening when I have a hard time even, touching my own breasts or touching my own vulva or knowing what kind of sensation really I feel excited by. So there's the repair piece that I'm sorry, but then there's also can we play? Can we play and can we take responsibility and can we enjoy that this body is designed to create an enjoyable experience of being alive for us? Yeah. There is something in that that we get to discover again through the process of being us. It's not something we have to expect turns on in an instant.
That's right.
But over time, through creating experiences of safety and really getting to know our bodies, sometimes it's just education. Like we've never been told.
Sure. What's what here?
Exactly. Yeah. Right? Like it is never too late to learn. It's never too late to learn. But understanding that shame causes us to shut down and arousal is meant to be a waking up process. And those are fundamentally incompatible. So sometimes we have to do some shame work so that we can actually wake up in our bodies.
That's so perfect. Thank you for answering that, and for walking us through that. Again, another place where we just sort of tiptoe sometimes, don't know what to do, don't know where to go. Every piece of your bright and lovely self is entwined with your physical body. She has delivered the whole of you to this very moment, and she serves you well. When I first started thinking about my body as a she and a her, thanks to Hillary's wisdom, it profoundly changed so many decisions I make on a daily basis, both big and small. Included in those decisions are the things I put on my body. For example, no longer will I squeeze and manipulate my feet that carry me everywhere into shoes that are uncomfortable. It's just not happening, which is why Rothy's are always on frequent rotation for me. If you want to feel like you're walking on clouds and give your feet the royal treatment, Rothy's is going to be your favorite thing. So probably my favorite, I've been wearing Rothy's, the slip-on sneakers, for years. These are the OGs for me. But Rothy's also has a full range of styles. They've just launched an autumn collection of flats and loafers, and more in washable merino wool styles. They're just like delicious, like these rich fall hues, like currant and clove and wintergreen and ice blue, like yay. And of course, the comfort factor is always 100% there. So while you're on their site, make sure to scroll through their bags too. Dark juniper, is one of their absolute standout big fall bag colors. I'm obsessed with it. So to help you welcome the fall season in style, Rothy's is doing something special. They gave us the chance to share this pretty rare opportunity with my listeners for a limited time. So right now you can get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/forthelove. So it's ROTHYS.com/forthelove. Yay, $20 off, you guys. So head to rothys.com/forthelove, find your new favorites today. Okay, we're going to wrap this up, Hillary. And these are questions. This series is called For the Love of You, and not in a trite way, really meaning you are so valuable. You matter. You mean something to this world. You count. Let's go. Let's do body. Let's do mind. Like, let's see if we can find a little freedom in this. And so I'm asking everybody this in the You series, these little questions, and it's just like, whatever you got, just top of your head.
I'm ready.
Okay, here's the first one. Do you have one, and you probably have more than one because you're really good at this, but do you have a favorite practice, or even just right now, that you use to just absolutely like honor and nurture your own self? Like, this is a thing that you give to you, that you love, and you're committed to it. Yeah.
Okay. Two things. Authentic movement, which I think I might've said in the past too. I want to get down, but on my own, no one around, preferably naked, music super loud, so like just in the living room, like feeling like, what is my body wanting to say that it didn't get to say when it was sitting in a chair all day long?
That's great.
And the second thing right now is I'm really into cake, and I had an eating disorder for, how long?
You talk about that a lot, by the way.
Over a decade. Right. And so I think I convinced myself that cake wasn't good because it was like in the category of food that was bad. And then I had a lot of cake when I was pregnant, and I'm into it. So I'm like checking out all the bakeries in my community. Like, I got to get all the cake all the time. And
this answer is so great.
Like,
it's so great.
Sometimes in the eating disorder community, we talk about recovery binges, which is like, you were restricted for so long. Enjoy more than you need. That's okay. Your body will like figure it, like everything will figure itself out. So I'm just loving cake. All the time.
That's so, nobody's ever said that. Nobody has ever said cake. And it just is making me really happy.
I keep a fork with me in my purse because
Hillary,
I don't know.
You're not messing around.
Like, you got to get real about this.
You're like cake ready, cake like 24/7.
I am not, nothing is stopping me.
Fantastic. Okay, here's my other question, and my next question. If you had to pick, and there's just such a myriad of choices, but if you had to pick your very favorite thing about yourself, there's the thing that you're like, I love this thing about me, what would you say?
I would say I love how curious I am.
Yeah.
I'm so curious. I just want to know all the questions.
Yeah.
I want to know the answers to all the questions. And I just have like a bottomless pit of questions. And I think it makes it probably irritating for some people. I'm like, give me more information about what that was like for me.
Totally.
Like, wow. I wanted this conversation about my feelings and my sadness to be over a long time ago. I'm like, no, let's go all the way into it.
Yes, that's right.
But I think it helps me be outside of judgment for myself too, because I can look at myself and go, what's going on there, instead of this is bad or this needs to go away.
Curiosity is one of my highest goals for my 40s, to continue to nurture it. Because I came up through a paradigm where curiosity was kind of punished and certainty was rewarded. And so this new permission to be a curious person in the world is so exciting for me.
It works so well with embodiment because we have sensations and we go, whoa, body, what are you telling me? Instead of stop it. Like we can ask the questions of ourselves that take us deeper into awareness of what's going on.
Okay. And last question. You've had this for me twice now. And so let's just see what it is this year. I have a suspicion. But it's Barbara Brown Taylor's question. Yes. What's saving your life right now?
Again, two things, if I'm permitted. One, my daughter.
That baby.
I'm alive and seeing the world in a new way. And and my apple tree. I've got an apple tree in my backyard.
Ooh.
And picking apples. And there's something so simple about like grabbing an apple. It makes this really satisfying like noise when you pull it off the tree. And I had this experience the other day where they intersected, and I've been kind of mesmerized by it since, but I breastfed my daughter, and then I went and picked apples from the tree, and I understood in a new way that they were the same thing, that my body nourishing her is what the earth is doing to us. And my ability to see myself so benevolently because of how I feed her, and then how that's translating to what I'm understanding about the earth and what the earth is doing to us. I really feel this intersection of being a mother changing the way I understand what we need to do for the earth. And that is saving me.
Ooh. It's powerful.
Feels like it for me.
Also, apple tree, dreamy.
Yeah.
So dreamy.
So dreamy.
Oh, jealous. Okay. So for the millionth time, just thank you for being who you are in this world and for your absolutely dogged dedication to your work, to your own personal liberation, and thus the rest of us. Wow. For keeping your hand to it, even though it has a lot of enemies and obstacles, your particular branch of the tree. And then just also for being so generous with your time and even with your own experience, because I learn a lot from you when you just talk about you. When you talk about what you're learning, when you talk about what you've overcome, when you talk about your experiences and you put it in terms like that, it just makes it so accessible for me to live into that in a like full way. I just want to live. I want to live and I want to live well. And so you're one of our best teachers here, our best practitioners. So you know me, I'm on team you forever. I will absolutely riddle all my books with your quotes. I don't care. I'm not sorry. It'll be just shy of plagiarism. And I'll splash your name everywhere because I want every single person that I love to listen to you. And so love that baby girl. Go snuggle that girl.
Wow, I will. And thank you. Thank you for your support of me. It feels so empowering. Helps me, trust my voice and want to speak up even more. And so thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. You'll never get rid of me, kid. So, okay. I can't wait to see you in person whenever the world is better.
I know. That's going to feel like such a joyful reunion of sorts.
I can't wait. Okay. Love you, sis.
Okay. Love you too. Bye.
Okay. So she's so great. She's just meant so much to me and she's taught me so much. And I really credit her with, at least for me, starting the engine on the process of becoming embodied again. I'm in my 40s. And I love that she just said there at the end that it's not too late, wherever you're at. It's not too late to start this work. It's not too late to imagine a different relationship with your own body. It's not too late to repair wherever you are. And then I think about our daughters and I'm like, wouldn't you have loved to have had this information in your ears when you were their age? I wish somebody would have told me this when I was 21. I wish that my teachers would have taught me this before I learned to hate myself. And so we can give it to our daughters and we can practice it in our own lives. It's never too late. You guys over at jenhatmaker.com, I will have under the podcast tab, I'll have this whole show. I'll have the show notes. I'll have the episode. I'll have links to all of Hillary's stuff, where she is on socials. I'll have links to all of her books and definitely her upcoming book. And don't forget, pay attention to my Instagram page. I'm going to have we'll do a live together when her book comes out. And so there's never enough Hillary McBride in the world. And so I'm doing my part to saturate the market with her. Okay, everybody. I hope this series has meant a lot to you. I hope that it served you well. I hope that you have seen your reflection in it, and that in whatever way you needed it, you were able to grab onto some paver stones on your way out of trauma or of pain or of suffering or neglect, dysfunction, whatever it is that took you away from you, whatever it is that disconnected you from you. I hope that this series has served as a way back. It has for me. So I'll see you next week. And thank you for being like incredible super fans of the show. Laura and the production team and Amanda and I love you, and we love to serve you. All right, guys, see you next week.